Okay, so you've probably been in this situation, right? You're sitting in a meeting and you get this weird feeling that you and your boss are living in two totally different realities. Well, today we're going to break down something called the mirror effect. It's this fascinating idea that explains why the people with the most power often have the absolute worst information. And here's the kicker. It might not even be their fault.
So let's just start right here with this quote from the source material, because man, does it hit home. There's a moment in the meeting when you realize everyone's lying. It's that sinking feeling, you know? The moment you realize the whole conversation isn't about finding the truth, it's about something else entirely.
All right, so let's set the scene. We're in a big, important meeting. On paper, the goal is to figure out the best path forward. Find the truth. But let's be real. The actual goal is just to get the boss's approval. It all comes down to one thing: reading the room.
So, picture this. You've got a product manager up there laying out 3 supposedly neutral options, but they're not really looking at their slides. Nope, their eyes are glued to the VP's face, searching for any tiny twitch, any subtle nod, anything that signals, yeah, that's the one I like. And the thing is, this isn't just people being cynical, it's a survival tactic. It's simply the quickest way to get that yes and end the meeting.
And this slide just nails the fundamental switch that happens. On the surface, the question is, what should we build? But underneath it all, the real question everyone's trying to answer is, what do I need to say to make this meeting end with an approval? The product, the strategy, all of it takes a backseat to managing the leader's psychology. Okay, so that's what happens in a single meeting. But what happens when that dynamic gets scaled up across an entire organization? Well, that's when things get really dangerous. It starts to poison the one thing a leader needs more than anything else: accurate information. This is the great corporate filter. Think of it like this. Information starts its journey at the bottom as raw, messy, complicated data, full of uncertainty. But then, as it travels up the chain of command, each level summarizes it, reframes it, and makes it more digestible. And digestible is usually just code for less complicated, or, frankly, less scary. By the time that info hits the executive's desk, it's not the raw reality anymore. It's a polished, curated story designed not to cause a panic.
So this filtering process creates a really specific and dangerous condition: structural blindness. This means senior leaders literally don't have access to reality anymore. They're getting a version of reality that has been processed through multiple layers of the question, what does the person above me want to hear? They're making huge decisions based on a comfortable story, not the messy truth. And the craziest part? They usually have no idea it's even happening.
Okay, now if this all feels a little theoretical, let's look at a real-world example that takes this whole idea to its most absurd, almost unbelievable conclusion. This is what the source calls the $1 trillion tell. Yeah, that number, $1 trillion. It's a number so huge our brains can't even really process it. This figure came up in relation to a compensation package for Elon Musk, and its sheer, mind-boggling scale is a perfect illustration of this whole system at work. And just to try and put that number into some kind of human perspective, 1 million seconds is about 12 days. Okay, I can grasp that. 1 billion seconds? That's almost 32 years. Whoa. But 1 trillion seconds? We're talking 31,709 years. 1 trillion seconds ago, modern humans hadn't even made it to Europe yet. That's not a financial number, that's practically a geological timescale. So why on earth would anyone need a number that big? Well, the justification is incredibly honest. It's not actually about the money. It's about engagement. The argument is basically, I need the stakes to be absurdly, astronomically high just to stay interested. It's like he needs the world to mirror his own sense of scale back to him. And that is the real point here. A pay gap that big isn't just a gap, it's an unbridgeable moat. I mean, think about it. How do you give real, honest, critical feedback to someone whose financial reality is so fundamentally different from your own? The answer is, you really can't. The distance becomes too great. It makes that crucial, honest feedback loop completely impossible. Now, it's really easy to look at an example like that and just write it off as, well, that's just one unique, larger-than-life personality. But this is where the source material makes a really crucial pivot. It argues that this isn't about one leader. It's not about the person at all. It's about the system. And this leads to that kind of oh no moment of realization. This isn't an exception. It's the rule. This happens to every leader.
The good ones, the bad ones, the inspiring ones, the mediocre ones. It truly doesn't matter who is sitting in that top chair, because the problem isn't the person.
The problem is information corruption, and it's basically the built-in price of having a hierarchy. The very structure itself is designed to filter information so that it pleases the people in power, not so that it reflects the actual truth. The system itself corrupts the information, and the higher you climb that ladder, the worse the corruption gets.
And what's worse, the system is designed to reinforce itself. Think about it. Leaders promote people who make their lives easier, right? The ones who just get it. But what does getting it really mean? Too often it means being an expert at making that mirror, at reading the room perfectly and reflecting back exactly what the leader wants to see. So each generation of leaders ends up handpicking the next generation of expert room readers.
Okay, so if the hierarchy itself is the problem, is there any way to actually fix it? This is where things get, well, a little bleak. The author's conclusion is that it's basically an unfixable fault. We can't eliminate it, we just have to figure out how to live with this broken system.
One of the biggest problems is this crazy feedback inversion. I mean, look at this. The junior employee, whose decisions have a relatively small blast radius, gets tons of raw, honest, unfiltered feedback every single day. But the CEO, the person whose decisions can affect thousands of people, they get almost zero honest feedback. It's completely backward. The more power you have, the less truth you get. And what about all those official channels for dissent, like company town halls or anonymous surveys? Well, the source argues that these mostly just turn into what it calls performative theater. It creates a safe space to complain about things that don't really matter, like the food in the cafeteria or the office layout. But raising your hand to question core company strategy, yeah, that's still career suicide. It's dissent, but only about the 1% of stuff that isn't a real threat.
So if we can't really fix the system, what are we supposed to do? The best we can hope for is to build some guardrails. You can try to actively reward people for telling you you're wrong. You can try to distribute authority so not all decisions flow to the top. But at the end of the day, the most important thing, the real variable here, is self-awareness. A leader has to constantly ask themselves, am I being managed right now? Am I looking at a mirror, or am I actually looking out the window at reality?
And that's really the question we're left with, isn't it? It's the fundamental challenge for every single person working inside a hierarchy, from the very top to the very bottom. When you're surrounded by mirrors, and the entire system is designed to show you what you want to see, how do you ever know what's real?